My cousin manages a convenience store 2 blocks from Penn Station. Last month, a Japanese couple walked in at 11 p.m., clutching a crumpled subway map like it was a treasure map to Mordor. The man asked if we had a taxi phone number because the underground train looks very dangerous for tourists. I asked what made him think that. He pulled out his phone and showed me a TikTok compilation titled NYC Subway Chaos with 8 million views. Every clip showed someone screaming, fighting, or passed out across 3 seats. He said his wife's family specifically warned them. Never ride the American Underground hole. They'd been taking Ubers everywhere for 4 days. Their hotel was 6 blocks away. They'd spent $340 on car rides. A Korean woman came into our store the next week asking where to buy pepper spray for the subway. She'd watched 3 YouTube videos about subway safety before her trip. One video claimed you needed to stand with your back against the wall at all times. Another said never make eye contact with anyone ever. The third recommended carrying a loud whistle and a flashlight. Even though the trains are fully lit, she'd prepared for the subway like it was a cave expedition. I told her millions of people ride it daily, without incident. She said yes, but those are locals who know the danger signs. She bought the pepper spray, a portable phone charger in case she needed to call police, and 3 protein bars in case she got trapped underground during an incident. She rode the subway exactly once during her week-long visit. The best part? I've lived here 28 years. I've taken the subway almost daily since I was 12. The wildest thing I've seen was a guy playing saxophone while doing a handstand. But somewhere between anime cafes and bubble tea, Asian tourists decided our subway system is basically Gotham City's underground lair. They arrive expecting Mad Max and leave, confused that they survived. I'm a hotel concierge in Midtown. A Taiwanese family checked in last spring and immediately asked about subway etiquette rules. The father had an actual printed guide from a Taiwanese travel blog titled Surviving New York Underground Transit. Rule number 1. Never sit in empty cars because Americans only avoid cars with dangerous people inside. He wanted to know how to identify which cars were safe. I explained that sometimes cars are empty because the AC is broken or someone spilled coffee. New Yorkers are just avoiding discomfort, not danger. He looked genuinely disturbed by this information. He said, "So you are telling me Americans will choose a crowded car over a comfortable empty one just for broken air conditioning?" I said yes. We're lazy like that. He wrote in his notebook, "Americans have different pain tolerance for crowding than violence." His wife asked if they needed to purchase standing tickets versus sitting tickets. She'd misread something online about subway classes. They rode standing the entire week because they never figured out that seats were free-for-all. My brother works at a MetroCard vending machine help desk at Grand Central. A Chinese tourist spent 15 minutes trying to buy a card last summer. She kept pressing buttons, then walking away, then coming back. Finally, she asked him, "When does the ticket inspector come to approve my purchase?" He had no idea what she meant. She explained that in some Asian countries, you need official approval before your transit card activates, especially as a foreigner. She thought she needed to show her passport to a uniformed inspector, who would validate her MetroCard before she could enter the turnstile. She'd been waiting near the machines for an inspector to appear. My brother explained you just buy it and go. She looked almost offended, like we were running some kind of anarchist transport system. She asked, "But how does the city know who is using the trains?" He said they don't track individuals, just card swipes. She bought her card but kept glancing around like she was getting away with something illegal. She checked her passport twice before swiping through the turnstile. I work at a tourist information booth near Times Square. A Singaporean couple asked me last November about the color-coded danger system for subway cars. I had zero clue what they meant. They showed me a Facebook post from a Singapore travel group claiming that New York subway cars have colored stripes, indicating safety levels. Green stripe means safe for tourists. Yellow means locals only. Red means avoid, unless absolutely necessary. This was complete fiction. Our trains don't have safety stripes. They have route letters and numbers. I explained this very clearly. The husband said, "But we have seen many cars with different colored stripes along the sides." I realized they were talking about the painted lines that indicate train routes and models. Just design features. Aesthetic choices by the MTA. The wife asked if I was downplaying the danger to protect the city's tourism reputation. She wanted to know if I received training to deny the color system. They left still half convinced I was covering up a secret safety hierarchy. They spent an hour at the platform, analyzing stripe patterns before boarding. My roommate's girlfriend is a tour guide for Asian travel groups. Last fall, she had a group from Malaysia who refused to board any subway car that didn't have a visible security camera. They'd read online that New York installed cameras in response to crime waves. So cars without cameras must be the dangerous ones. First problem, not all cameras are visible. They're often tiny and hidden. Second problem, they were checking for the wrong kind of cameras, looking for the dome-style ones from shopping malls. They'd reject car after car, causing the whole group to miss 3 trains in a row. My roommate's girlfriend finally just picked a random car and said this one has cameras. They all filed in peacefully. One woman pointed at a smoke detector and whispered, "Is that the camera?" My roommate's girlfriend said yes. The woman looked relieved and took a selfie underneath it, giving a thumbs up. The photo caption probably said something like, "Successfully found safe subway car in dangerous New York." They rode in complete calm. Having invented their own safety confirmation, I manage a food cart outside the Museum of Natural History. A Japanese tourist bought a hot dog for me last summer, then asked where the seating area was. I said there isn't one. Street food is street food. You eat it while walking or standing. He looked genuinely confused, like I'd told him to eat it while doing a backflip. He said, "In Japan, we do not walk and eat. It is very rude to the food and the street." I told him New York has different rules. Walking while eating is practically our official sport. He asked if there was at least a designated standing zone where he could eat without being rude to American culture. I pointed at the general sidewalk. He selected a very specific spot next to a tree, planted his feet, and ate his hot dog with both hands, while facing the tree like it was a tiny shrine. He finished, threw away his napkin, and bowed slightly to the cart before leaving. My coworker said that was the most respectful hot dog consumption he'd ever witnessed. The whole interaction took 12 minutes for a food item that takes 90 seconds to eat. My sister works at a Starbucks in Lower Manhattan. A Korean woman came in last winter and ordered an iced coffee. My sister made it and handed it over. The woman stared at it for a solid 10 seconds, then asked, "Do you have the warming station?" My sister said it's iced coffee. It's supposed to be cold. The woman said, "Yes, but in Korea, when we order iced drinks, the shop has a microwave station where we can warm it if we change our mind." She wanted the option to heat up her iced coffee. My sister explained that Americans don't typically microwave iced beverages. The woman said, "Then why do you put ice in it if customers cannot adjust the temperature themselves?" She seemed to think iced coffee was a base drink that you customized afterward. It's like a Builderant temperature situation. She asked if my sister could make her a hot coffee with ice on the side so she could control the melting rate. My sister just made her a hot coffee with no ice. The woman left satisfied. Having successfully navigated what she probably thought was a bizarre American drink customization system, she probably told her friends back home that Americans are very rigid about beverage temperatures. I work at a pizzeria in Greenwich Village. A Thai couple came in last summer and asked if we sold pizza by the slice with rice on the side. I said no. Pizza doesn't come with rice. The man said, "But this is a meal, correct? In Thailand, meals come with rice unless you specifically order without rice." I explained that pizza is the entire meal in America. The carbs are built into the pizza itself. He looked at his wife and said something in Thai. She pulled out her phone and showed me a translation. "Is pizza considered snack or meal in American culture?" I said meal. They seemed skeptical. They ordered 2 slices, ate them, then went next door to buy a container of white rice from a Chinese takeout place. They came back, sat at my counter, and ate the rice alongside their remaining pizza crust. The man told me, "In Thailand, we cannot feel full without rice. Even pizza needs rice base." Said it like he was sharing a medical fact. I watched them construct tiny pizza rice sandwiches using the crust as bread. They left very happy, having successfully adapted American food to proper Thai meal structure. They probably think all New Yorkers secretly eat rice with pizza, but hide it from tourists. My cousin works at a diner in Chinatown that gets a lot of Asian tourists. Last spring, a Vietnamese family came in and asked for the restaurant's shoe policy. The waitress had no idea what they meant. The mother explained, "Some American restaurants require shoes to be removed before sitting to protect clean floors. Some require shoes to stay on for safety. What is your policy?" The waitress said, "We don't have a shoe policy. Just wear whatever you want." The mother seemed uncomfortable with this lack of guidance. She asked, "So we must decide ourselves?" The waitress said, "Yes." The family had a 5-minute whispered discussion in Vietnamese, clearly trying to determine the correct cultural move. They eventually decided to keep their shoes on but tuck their feet under their chairs, so their shoes weren't fully on the floor, like a compromise position. They ate their entire meal with their legs folded under them in the booth seats. My cousin said it looked wildly uncomfortable. When they left, one of the kids asked if they'd done it correctly. The mother said, "We will never know." Americans do not communicate their rules clearly. They probably went home thinking American dining etiquette is deliberately mysterious to confuse foreigners. I'm a taxi driver. Last fall, I picked up a Chinese couple from JFK heading to Manhattan. 20 minutes in, the wife asked me to please drive on the correct side, now that we are in the city. I said I was already on the correct side. She said, "No, you were driving on the right side." In China, right side is correct. But we heard America drives on the left side like England. I told her America drives on the right, just like China. She got very quiet, then said, "Are you certain?" I said I've been driving here for 16 years, pretty certain. She pulled out her phone and started frantically typing. 5 minutes later, she announced, "The internet says America drives on the right. But our tour guide in Beijing told us America drives on the left." I asked who she was going to trust, the internet and her actual driver, or a tour guide in Beijing who's probably never been here. She said our tour guide seemed very confident. She spent the rest of the ride gripping the door handle and nervously watching traffic, convinced I was driving on the wrong side of the road and somehow not crashing. When we arrived, she tipped me extra and said, "Thank you for not hitting anyone while driving backwards." She thought I'd performed a miracle. My girlfriend works at a bike rental shop in Central Park. A Japanese tourist rented a bike last summer and asked for the route map to avoid the park's jungle sections. She had no idea what he meant. He said, "Central Park is very large and has wild sections with dangerous animals." Yes, we need map to avoid those areas. She explained that Central Park is completely maintained and landscaped. There are no jungle sections. He said, "But we saw photos online of very thick forest areas with no people." She realized he'd seen pictures of the Ramble, a wooded section that looks wild, but is still fully part of the park with paths and people. He said his travel blog warned about Central Park's untamed zones where tourists can get lost for hours. She showed him a park map. He studied it and asked where the rescue stations were located in case he got lost. She said you can't really get lost. The park has clear paths, and you can always see buildings around the edges. He rented the bike but asked for her phone number in case of wilderness emergency. He rode for 30 minutes, returned the bike, and told her he successfully avoided the dangerous zones by staying on paved paths the entire time. He thought he'd outsmarted the jungle. I work at a bus tour company. A Taiwanese woman booked a tour last spring and asked if our bus could avoid driving through Harlem because her guidebook said it was not included in tourist safety zones. I told her that's outdated and frankly racist information. Harlem is a regular neighborhood with businesses, families, and normal people. Our tour goes through Harlem to see historic sites. She said, "Yes, but the guidebook is from 2023. Has it become safe very recently?" I explained it's been safe. The guidebook is just wrong. She asked if I could provide written confirmation that the tour company accepts liability if something happens in Harlem. I said we don't provide liability waivers for specific neighborhoods because there's nothing uniquely dangerous about any of them. She seemed very uncomfortable but took the tour. Afterward, she came back and said, "Harlem looked very normal and peaceful." Why do guidebooks say it is dangerous? I told her because some guidebooks are written by people who've never actually been here and just repeat stereotypes. She said, "That seems like false advertising." She was more offended by the inaccurate guidebook than anything else. She left a 1-star review for the guidebook on some Taiwanese travel site, citing emotional distress from unnecessary fear. My brother-in-law works at Grand Central's information desk. A Korean couple approached him last winter with a question about the subway map. They wanted to know why the map didn't show the underground river that the trains travel over. I said, "There's no underground river." They said, "Yes, there is. We read that New York subway was built over an underground river system, which is why the trains make water sounds." I realized they'd misunderstood something about the city's water table, or maybe old aqueduct systems. The trains don't travel over rivers. Any water sounds are just mechanical or ventilation systems. The husband said, "But we specifically prepared for possible flooding based on this information." They'd brought extra socks and waterproof bags for their phones. The wife asked if the river ever floods into the cars. My brother-in-law explained very clearly, "There is no river. There's no flooding risk from underground rivers, and the water sounds are just normal train sounds." They looked disappointed, like he'd ruined their adventure narrative. They left still checking their phone weather apps for underground flood warnings. They probably went home and told everyone that New York subway workers are trained to downplay the underground river to prevent tourist panic. I'm a museum security guard at the Met. Last week, a Filipino tourist asked me if the subway back to his hotel would be dangerous after 5 p.m. because that is when the American criminals start working. I asked where he got that information. He said a travel forum where someone posted that New York crime operates on a shift schedule, with the danger shift starting at 5 p.m. and ending at midnight. He'd planned his entire day around leaving the museum by 4:45 p.m. To catch a safe train, I told him the subway runs 24 hours and millions of people use it at all times, including evening rush hour. He said yes, but those are locals who know how to handle criminals. He'd bought a money belt, a decoy wallet with fake cards, can memorize the phrase, "I am just a tourist." In case he got mugged, he took the 5:30 p.m. train back to his hotel. He texted me later he'd saved my number in case of emergency. The text said, "I survived the danger shift. Train was very crowded with business people. No criminals. Your city is safer than the internet says." The internet has convinced an entire generation of Asian tourists that our subway system is a dystopian underground nightmare. Meanwhile, we're all just down there trying to get home, listening to podcasts, half asleep, annoyed that the train is delayed again. If you're reading this and planning a New York trip, just take the subway. You'll be fine. I promise, the underground river isn't real.